Thomas looked deeply into Laura's eyes. He never thought that his wife could do so many things behind his back. "You figured it out. I found someone to poison Randall. Hannah never went home, and I'm the one who made sure of that. Now Monty hates Kevin, and Kevin never embezzled the family's funds. I found someone to forge the evidence to make it look like he'd been funneling money from the family's accounts." Laura sneered and concluded, "There you have it. It was me."
"But why did you do all that? Kevin's your own nephew."
Thomas's hands were shaking. "So what? I didn't have any choice. Ethan is a loser. All he knows is to sit around all day and waste his time. If I hadn't done this, Kevin would have ended up running the family's businesses, and we'd have lost everything." Laura didn't care about anything but her own future. "Once Dad is out of the way, you can take over the whole Williams family. Everything really belongs to us anyway, and now nobody can take it away." Laura told her husband the rest of her plan. "If you're worried that Kevin will be left penniless, you can just pay him off. I don't care how much, it'll be worth it. Every man has his price."
"But you—"
Thomas was so frustrated and disappointed in his wife that he didn't know what else to say. While this was happening, Kevin was sitting next to his grandfather's bed looking very sad. Even though the Williams family had kicked him out, how could he not be upset? He still loved his grandpa.
"Hey, you bastard. Are you really going to wait around till Grandpa wakes up?"
Ethan stood behind Kevin and looked down at him. He sneered.
"I advise you to get out of here. If he wakes up and sees you, he'll only get angry."
"Your father asked me to come here, and I'm staying. Don't tell me what to do," Kevin said brusquely.
"He's very sick. I don't care if you are his grandson. I can't let you be the last thing he sees before he goes."
Ethan sneered menacingly.
"So get out of here now."
Kevin ignored his cousin's order and continued to sit with Grandpa. Suddenly, his grandfather woke up. When he saw Kevin sitting there, his eyes lit up.
"Grandpa, are you awake?"
Ethan immediately asked him with a smile. Kevin sighed happily and called out, "Grandpa."
"Kevin, I am really glad you could come,"
Randall said weakly. He'd been worried that Kevin wouldn't come back to see him. After all, he'd had his family do horrible things to Kevin's parents, Alan and Susan, and he'd even tortured Kevin's friend Mitchell. "Just rest and get better, Grandpa." Kevin didn't know what else to say. A few minutes later, a nurse ran in and looked around the room. "Are you all Mr. Williams' family members? Our team of specialists may have come up with a procedure to save him."
"What would that be?"
Thomas asked her urgently as he walked back into the room. "Mr. Williams' blood is full of toxins. We can give him a transfusion to clear them out." Then the nurse added, "But I want to emphasize that this procedure involves a lot of risk. If either Mr. Randall or the person who gives him the transfusion isn't in good enough health, they could die. The donor could even suffer health problems for the rest of their lives." All the family members in the room and out in the corridor heard this, and their faces turned grim. When they heard that the procedure could kill them or irreversibly weaken their health, they cringed. A lot of them were young and just starting to train their bodies with the help of the myriads. Grandpa Williams had already lived a long life. Why should they risk themselves just for him? They were all incredibly selfish. When Kevin saw everyone's reaction, he was disappointed in his relatives. How could they call themselves the protectors of the family? They owed everything to his grandfather's efforts over the years, and they'd be nothing without him. It looked like it would all be up to Kevin now. Everyone in the Williams family was gathered in the hospital to be with Randall Williams, who had been poisoned. They all expected him to die, but a nurse came in and told them that he could be saved by a very dangerous type of blood transfusion. Seeing that everyone else was keeping silent, Kevin boldly asked, "How soon can you arrange for me to donate my blood?" "We have a couple of steps to go through first, sir. Before we do anything, we need to see if your blood types match," the nurse explained carefully. "If you'll all come with me, I can test everyone to see whose blood is compatible." As she finished speaking, most of the Williams family members were relieved to find out that they needed to match Randall's blood type. A couple of hours later, the family was even more excited. Grandpa Williams' blood type was AB negative, the rarest there is. Out of 243 people, only 3 of you matched Mr. Williams. The nurse was surprised when she looked at the results of everyone's testing. The hospital had hoped to have a larger pool of possible donors, but they were lucky to find even 3 people. One of the Williamses asked hesitantly, "Nurse, which 3 people matched?" "Kevin, Thomas, and Ethan Williams," she answered quietly. As soon as they heard who was eligible, many of the family members felt a lot less anxious, and Grandpa Williams, who had just woken up again, started to smile happily. Even though he had lived a long life, it was normal for him to want to live a little longer. The next step is to discuss who will donate the blood. Then the hospital's specialists will begin the preparations for the procedure. The nurse turned and walked out of the room with the test results. Everyone turned and locked their eyes on Kevin, his uncle, and his cousin. Thomas sighed and patted Ethan on the shoulder. "Son, please donate your blood to your grandfather." Kevin was no longer considered a true member of the Williams family. Nobody expected him to come back and visit his grandfather in the hospital, let alone provide a blood transfusion. "Dad, what are you talking about?" Ethan looked at his father in shock. "I said you should give a blood transfusion to your grandfather." Thomas insisted as his heart sank. Just as Ethan was about to refuse, Grandpa Williams sat up a little in his bed and said, "No, I want Kevin to provide the transfusion for me." All of a sudden, everyone looked at the old man. Some of them had doubts in their eyes, while others immediately understood how he'd come to this decision. It was to help protect Thomas and Ethan. "Kevin, if anything happens to you, your wife will support you for the rest of your life. But your Uncle Thomas has just taken over as head of the family, and everyone is depending on him," Grandpa Williams explained. "As Thomas's only son, your cousin Ethan is next in line. The blood transfusion is not just dangerous, but could also affect his health. He's too young to take that kind of risk." Although Grandpa Williams was very weak, his mind was still strong. Nobody there could argue with his reasoning. Kevin was tempted to laugh. Ethan wasn't just a weak little boy. And so what if he was the only child in Thomas's family? If a blood transfusion like this was dangerous for Ethan, wouldn't it be just as risky for Kevin? Why was the Williams family ready to risk Kevin's life but not Ethan's? "Grandpa, do you really want to put them ahead of me?" Kevin was feeling a little resentment about his unreasonable suggestion.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.